Well, hi folks. Hope you're well. It's a tough video to do really because sometimes a little knowledge is dangerous, and I'm on dangerous ground. But I may be many things, but I'm not stupid. Okay, like you, I'm not stupid. I've always in my life had a gut instinct because I think our gut, part of our chakras, um, isn't it our heart chakra or whatever? Something tells me whenever you get a feeling, sometimes, you get this feeling that somebody's lying to you and you just can't put your finger on it. Something's worrying you and you can't, well, it all seems okay, but there's a but. And it's a niggling doubt. It's almost like something out there is telling you you're being lied to, it's all bullshit, something's not quite right, you can smell a rat, you can feel something is fundamentally wrong. And that is all part of our, I suppose you could call it a sixth sense. And most people think, well, don't be stupid, you know. And the same can be said in the world of politics, and I find politics absolutely tiresome. I know there are people out there who live for it, politicians and banksters. But what we have to realize, folks, is that we think we are under this delusion that we live in a democracy. And democracy, quite simply put, really does equal two wolves and a young lamb deciding on what they're going to have for dinner tonight. That's what democracy is. It is mob rule. Now we understand that. We think we live in a democracy. But it's such a terrible existence. Because, again, we are living in mob rule. I shall explain. An example. And I'm not being super original here. I'm just conveying what I've learned, hopefully to convey it to you, and it might be enlightening for you too. And some of you may have already heard this little story. But you have at school we used to take our favourite toys into our school lessons when we were young, to talk about our favourite little toy or what we've been doing and what hobby you have, and it's a show and tell, and each pupil has 10 minutes to just bring into the classroom something of special interest to them, to explain to the others in the class their little hobby. Anyway, one day there were some very young children had this opportunity, and one of the children decided to take in a relatively a practically newborn kitten, and to show, and much to the surprise of everybody who went, "Ah, isn't that sweet," in the class. Naturally, amongst the 20 children, there was the question that popped up, is it a girl or a boy? And nobody could really tell, because as you know, sexing a cat, particularly a young kitten, is extremely difficult until they get to a certain age. So nobody could really tell whether it was a girl or a boy. How do you tell? So the teacher decided to be democratic about this and say, okay, children, we can't really decide amongst ourselves. Let's put it to the vote. Hands up, all of you who think that's a boy. 5 kids put their hand up. Therefore, 15 kids thought it was a girl, because it was so sweet. And that's the end of the matter then. It's voted, it's a boy. It's a girl. It's a girl. And they decided to call it Nancy. Anyway, end of the day, the kitten went back to its mummy. And eventually, the question was asked a few weeks later of this young girl, how's the cat? Now it's grown up. And was it a boy or was it a girl? It turned out to be a boy. So democracy failed in that respect. And the minority were correct, the 5, that it was a boy. The actual way of finding out whether a kitten is a boy or a girl is to look at their chops. Okay. And the ones with narrower chops turn out to be girlies. And the ones with big chubby chops turn out to be boys. Now you have it. I have that on good authority. And it's usually right. Look at their little face, not the shape of their head when they're new. Look at how narrow the front of their faces are. Chubby cheeks are boys. Narrow faces are girls. Well, there we are. Worth watching the video for, don't you think? Anyway, I digress. It demonstrates that there is an inherent weakness and Achilles heel in this word, and we're so used to it in our society, called democracy. There is a wonderful book written by Carroll Quigley called Tragedy and Hope. And it's all about societies. Okay. And how a world develops and how democracy rules, communism rules, this rules, that rules. It's a great book, but God, it's tough reading. Tough reading. It's very confusing for those particularly like me who have a pretty crap memory, to be honest with you. You have to keep flicking back all the time. And it's about that thick. It's tough. Tragedy and Hope. Tragedy and Hope by Carroll Quigley, who was a man. He's a professor. He's died now. And he was talking about democracy. And in there he mentions about Cecil Rhodes, who, for those of you who know, the Rhodes Scholarship might ring a bell. Cecil Rhodes was without doubt, one of the richest men on the planet by the time he got to Africa and bought up the gold mines and the diamond mines and controlled them. And he was that rich when he died that he had actually 7 wills. Okay, and each will, he segregated his money to be split up. And not one member of Cecil Rhodes' family benefited from Cecil Rhodes's funds. Not one. Much to their chagrin, irritation, anger. No, these wills were given out in sponsorships to because Cecil Rhodes was thinking, he thought that the world will revolve around the British Empire. Okay. Which needs managing. and not by the royals. Although he was a staunch royalist, he also was fundamentally a communist. And what he decided was that the best way forward for Great Britain was to come under a collectivism. Try saying that when you're drunk. A collective, like the Borg, where you have the many controlled by a very small few. That's the way to do it. We have the worker bees and very few leaders. So he used his amassed wealth to manipulate the agenda of that idea. And it happens to this day. His money often goes toward Council for Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, yada yada yada. And there are many, many hidden societies, secret societies that also meet. And the Trilateral Commission, that's another one. All these groups were originally funded and maintained that funding and secrecy, thanks to Cecil Rhodes. Well, you think, what a bastard. This is an Englishman through and through. Yet he's turning his back on democracy and thinks that the way forward is to have a dictatorship of our world. So he used his vast fortune and continues, it is still vast, to do this. And this includes huge swathes of the world's businesses and the business empires, and the huge, very influential on the governments, I might add. And he gave scholarships out to promising young bright buttons like, brace yourself, Bill Clinton, of all things. He was a Rhodes Scholar himself. Yes, Bill Clinton. Yes. He did more than kiss the girl, didn't he? So these are the people we're dealing with, but it then makes sense. Because anybody who's anybody in the world of politics and high finance and the banking world are following an agenda. They are following Cecil Rhodes's agenda. And that is world communism. Or let's put it another way, socialism. Where the few control the many. Or socialism, well, communism is socialism in a hurry. Okay, so let's not split hairs. Because communism is where all people are equal, except some are more equal than others. Well, you tell me the difference between socialism and communism. There ain't one. There isn't. It's semantics. It's word games. Now, when you understand then that all those puppet masters behind the scenes at the highest level, they are higher than the royals, folks. These are the ones the royals say, yes, sir. It's like the barons and the Magna Carta. The barons had the king, King John, over a barrel. Because I tell you something, the king was cornered for the Magna Carta, which was supposed to be for the common, it wasn't for the common people, it was to protect the bloody royals from the barons, the robber barons, the barons of every county in the land in Great Britain. And you can transpose that throughout the world. We are every country, in Western society particularly, is held to ransom by the robber barons, aka the bankers. And this is why our Queen is now kowtowing and persona non grata with the Rothschilds, because they've reached critical mass now where they can do that to the Queenie and snub her. Because these people are richer than our Queen, believe me. They could buy and sell the old bird 10 times over. So much for the Magna Carta. It certainly doesn't protect royalty. Well, it actually does stop the barons, the robber barons, knocking off and killing and assassinating the king or the sitting queen and her offspring, the fruit of her loins. But as for the whole staff of Buckingham Palace, they can be snuffed out without fear of retribution. But the Queen and her family, we're all right, Jack. Pull up the drawbridge. By the bankers. The bankers could slaughter anyone in this country, literally, with impunity because of the Magna Carta, if they so wish. They can destroy the country if they so wish, as long as the Queen or King is still upstanding, and her family, the bloodlines. Magna Carta, what a joke. For the people, by the people. Oh, do me a favour. So understanding all this then, that the overall world agenda, this New World Order, is so closely linked to the wishes and agenda of Cecil Rhodes, who was a late adopter, because it's been around an awful long time. Socialism, communism, even before Marx even raised his scruffy little head, or Lenin, or Stalin, way before. But look what they did to the Russian royals. What we have to grasp now, where we're all Brexit obsessed in the United Kingdom, okay, is that we are in a position now where the government's truth be known, not the royals, because they're just, okay, the Queen can dissolve Parliament if she so wishes, but it wouldn't look too good, would it? But no. Make no bones about it. The Queen will do as she is told. Because if she doesn't, she'll know the consequences. So, what happens then? Well, it's very straightforward. We think we have a government of Conservative and Labour. We've got 3 parties going on. We have the Conservatives and the Labour fundamentally, haven't we? We do have a 2-party state, regardless of, don't talk to me about Liberal Democrats, okay, and all the other shit. The Green Party, they are nothing. It is the Conservatives and the Labour. It always has been, really. 2 halves of the same pig, basically. And yet, the general public, the people, seem to think that we have a choice. Well, we can either die by the sword or the bullet, as far as I'm concerned, because Britain is heading towards a socialist society. We have to accept this right before our very eyes, because the people are asleep. We think we have a vote. We think what we vote matters. It doesn't matter. What's going on with Brexit is demonstrating it quite openly, blatantly. Politicians don't give a shit. They give us the impression that they are voting against one another, but behind the scenes it's one big piss up. Well, which side are you on? I'm on the negative side. Oh, we're on the positive side this time around. And we've got to vote for it. Oh, we're voting against it. Oh, well, jolly hockey sticks. You know, good for the cause, though. Nudge, nudge. Secret handshakes, Freemasonry. Okay? The overall agenda of the politicians in Great Britain is to turn Great Britain into a socialist state. And get in line. But they can't do it so blatantly, folks. They have to do it inch by inch. We go metric, if you can get what I'm trying to say. They'll tell us we look good in red as they slice our throats. Look at what the Americans, look at this, get this, the Senate. We have the Republicans and the Democrats. It's like the children at school. Split them up, put a line down the middle. You lot are Democrats, you lot. But I want to be a Democrat. Okay, jump over then, right, okay. So we have this constant battle to and from a two-party state. Democrats, Republicans, Democrats, you know, and the senators disagreeing, and then he's disagreeing. We've got Clinton going for it, and then we've got the Bushes and the Clintons, and now we've got the Trump. Look! Hello? Once the doors are closed, and nobody's really watching or listening, it's one big piss-up. They'll all go to each other's weddings and funerals and pay respect in it. The right honourable gentleman, this is what they say in the Houses of Parliament. It makes me want to throw up when I hear that. What's right honourable about a lying two-faced bastard who knows precisely what the agenda is, and they're playing the game? If they know what's good for them. Nudge, nudge, secret handshakes. I grant you that not all politicians are in on the game yet. But they're either with us or against us. And if they're against us, they don't last as politicians. These little idealists who suddenly find out what really is the truth and then make fools of themselves. Britain in 1945 apparently won the war. We didn't. We are still at war. Okay? We are still at war with the Nazis. Nazis, short for National Socialists. National Socialists. There is provably in the British cabinet right now spies and Nazis who have the agenda of pushing all they can. There are 4 cabinet members right now who are German Nazi sympathizers. And they spy, quite frankly, on everything that's going on and feed that information back to headquarters. And where do you think the headquarters is? Yes, Brussels, the Tower of Babel, because that is the nest of vipers with the socialist agenda. And that's what it is. This is why they want their own army, their own European army. Why don't we wake up? The people, that's the problem is, the deception is so perfect and subtle. We don't see it coming. Because 99% of people out there say, well, whether we Brexit or not doesn't pay my gas bill. My brother is like that, my oldest brother. Doesn't matter a shit. He's a lot older than I am. He's probably got 10 years in him, tops. Don't give a shit. But he's got grandchildren. But, and I can't think like this without saying something at least, or doing a video like this to make people aware that the agenda is, of course, exactly on schedule. And we think in the UK that we're Brexiting. You've got to be kidding. No, they'll put it to the revote when the time is right, when there's a fair wind behind them. The idiots out there in Great Britain La La Land will decide, along with the Scots, who are already sold on the idea of socialism, will agree that we are better off as part of the European community. Talk about turkeys voting for Christmas. This is a Scottish lot and those who want to remain. But it is a done deal. It truly is. That Britain will not Brexit. I would be absolutely gobsmacked. I will eat my words if Britain ever Brexits. But I don't think it'll be in my lunch break. No, us mugs will be suckered by the media, which is controlled by the banking cartels and the Freemasons and the banksters. Of course they are. You control the media. You control every political party. And let me tell you something. Those that matter, whether they're Conservative, Liberal Democrats, Social Democrats, you name it, or the Communist Party, they're all together because there's a new dawn. I've said this in my videos before. Everywhere you look, there's a new dawn. The politicians are saying it. A new world order. And it hasn't gone away, folks. We might think we live in a democracy, but remember the two wolves and a lamb. You see? So in America, if you think Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton and G.W. Bush, no, not those, they're both the same party, but if you think that Trump is wholly opposed to the Clintons, you're sadly mistaken. Because when the cameras are switched off and the curtains are drawn and everybody's behind closed doors, they're swinging. They're buddies, man. They're all buddies. They're all, it's a big club, as George Carlin said, and you and I aren't in it. We're just serfs. That's what we are. We're impotent. I hate that word for some reason. And it's such a performance once you grasp that the overall agenda is to follow the Cecil Rhodes idea of socialism. I'm not surprised by any political result anymore. If I was a betting man, I'd put money on it. But you see, what they do, folks, is, in the words of David Icke, they work on the totalitarian tiptoe. If they're too blatant, we go, hey, we're not having any of that. Look what happened in Russia. Get back, get back. And they go, okay, we'll take a step back. And then when no one's looking, they'll take 2, 3 steps forward. Back off, I saw you do it. Okay? But it doesn't stop the overall agenda. Eventually, they will get there. And this is also a way of problem, reaction, solution. You create the problem, you wait for the reaction, then you offer your solution. And the solution to the world's problems, it seems, is that there's some who don't have and some have. Let's become socialists and everybody will have the same. Well, it doesn't work in China. It doesn't work in Korea, North Korea, does it? Everywhere communism's been, it's been an utter failure. And yet again, they want to continue. It's the biggest game in town. And the idiots on the street, the general public, can't see this. It's so easy. I'll give you an example of problem, reaction, solution. Perhaps I can make myself a little more clear. Let us assume you live in a street, okay, and you park your car outside your house, and you sit there, you're watching your telly, doing your thing, having your beer after a long day's work. It's a quiet road, okay, but the government decide that they want to, right outside your house, in your street where you live, they want to put a telegraph pole in front of your house, not blocking your driveway, mind, but right above your house, with a big security camera. 2 of them, one shining up the street and one shining down the street. Now, you would think, well, that's good. Or some people object to that because it's an invasion of their own privacy, which is quite right. So when you draw your curtains in the morning and see these workmen working for the council, you say, hey, what you up to? Well, we're just sticking up security. Don't have a go at us, mate. We're doing our job, just sticking up security cameras. Well, it's a very quiet street. There's very little crime. What on earth are you wanting to watch up and down here for? We're just doing our job. The job's worths. Fair enough, they're doing their job. And you think, bloody hell. And you turn around to your wife and your husband, you say, look, have you seen this mess, this monstrosity of a camera system? What's stopping them moving the cameras around to in our bedroom and things like that? Not having this. And you are going to have these bloody taken down, putting a stop to this. So you phone up the local council and you say, hey, this is my bloody property. Invasion of my privacy, yada, 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 yada. You know, if you don't take these bloody cameras down, I'm going to get my axe and I'm going to cut your telegraph pole down. Criminal damage. I don't care about the criminal damage. I'm not having my privacy invaded. And they say, okay, Mr. Jones. What? No need to go on now. We'll move the cameras. We'll take them down if that's going to shut you up, because you create such a fuss. No, what? That's it then. And you show off. You say, told you, Betty. I told you they'd listen to me. It's a silver tongue, you see. I knew it. They were invading my. I know my rights. I demand my privacy. Job done. You come home from work, you park your car. You have your dinner in the evening, everything's hunky-dory, you got your remote control. You're actually so comfortable when you get your remote control in your hand, you know where the chair is behind you. You don't have to look. It's such a reflex. You put your favourite channel on after work, you've got your paper in your hand, and you can back into the chair without even looking. It's such a habit. That's the way it is. Chuff to bits in yourself, flicking through the channel, put the match on, putting your feet up, and your wife's dead proud of you for fighting the cameras. Good on you, George. Everything's right with the world. And then you hear a God Almighty smash. What the hell's that? Well, look out, and you check your car out. Some bastards put a brick through your windscreen and thrown a gallon of white paint over your flash car, the one you worked so hard for. They think, bloody, what bastards. And you go out and you see these little shysters running down the road. I gotta get you. And you haven't got a prayer. You sit there and you cry into your soup. Look at the state of my car. Nobody saw anything happen. No witnesses, nothing. It's normally a quiet street. And there's you. Why me? Why not? You got the nicest car. You got what was... Did you leave your laptop in the car? No! What a bloody laptop. How unusual. You claim on the insurance, the car's repaired. After a couple of weeks, you're happy again. You sit in your recliner. Just getting over the trauma of it all, really. And suddenly, just suddenly, there's a gang of lads come down one end of the street, and they're throwing beer bottles in people's gardens and smashing beer bottles through your front window, or maybe your neighbour's front window. And you go, Jesus, not... Oh, what the bloody hell? I'm not having this. You phone the police, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and they run off, and they get away, these little shits. So you think, oh, Jesus. You phone the police, this can't go on, this is ridiculous. It's a quiet street, and all of a sudden this is happening. You phone the council to complain, because the cars are speeding up and down the bloody night, all night, up and down, keeping your kids and you awake, because you've got to go to work in the morning. And they say, well, is that the Mr. Jones? Yes, is that the council? The councillor, George? Yes, hello, George. Listen, it's Mr. Jones here, number 46. Look, for the last 3 months, I've nothing but bloody hell happening down our street. What? Yes, I'm the street. Yes, neighbourhood watch chap. Yes, I'm in charge of neighbourhood watch. I've never seen anything like it. I know the best solution would be to put security cameras on. Well, we had them, but I saw them as an invasion of privacy, and I wanted them taken down. Well, now you know the consequences. What are you going to do about it? He said, well, we can put the security cameras back up if you like. Well, it'll reduce the chances of anything happening, because we'll be able to catch the perpetrators, won't we? And if it's the same lot, we'll get them, and you'll have more of a peaceful life. Well, more of a peaceful life, eh? And my car's not going to be damaged. I won't get bricks in my window. But okay, just one camera, mind. Just one or two. All right, one pole, 2 cameras. Okay. I'll go for that. Job done. Now, that's a very simplistic story of how we are coerced into accepting surveillance. Because we're such mugs, we accept it. We accept it in our airports, don't we? Because of the bomb threats on aeroplanes, because of the take your shoes off, take your belts off, strip off. I want to have a feel of your ass. I want to have a play with your kids and a grope your wife with my rubber gloves, just in case there's a Unabomber. Well, not the Unabomber, but the take your shoes. Why do I take my shoes off? So you can check my shoes before I get on an aeroplane. Really? It's all about control. It's not the fact that they're worried about the plane blowing up. For Christ's sake, the planes are full of thousands of litres of high-octane petrol, kerosene. It can blow up like that if there's a spark anywhere. And yet they're worried about us carrying on more than 50 mils of aftershave in our soap bag. Put your little pills in a bag so they can see through it. Do me a favour. It's got nothing to do with your safety. It's all about conditioning the Pavlov's dog to accept authority. And that's part of the socialist dictate, the communist dictate, where the few with the authority will control the many. Just like the council control you in your council house or your house. They got their camera despite your protestations. They suckered you into accepting their dictate of having security cameras so they can keep an eye on the masses, and that's you. And that's a micro scale, but think about this now. What's going on? 5G? I didn't have a say in 5G being adopted in the United Kingdom. I'm sure you didn't if you're in the United Kingdom. It's just going to happen. It's already in the smart meters that people are adopting in their houses, quite willingly and openly. We've got smart motorways in the United Kingdom now. You won't be able to fart in your car without them knowing. Every time, every inch your car goes down the motorway in the UK, M1, M25, M6, M3, they will know your position like that in an instant. It's all about control. Okay? It's all about control. Because communism relies on mass control. How the few can control the many. The police can read the number of hairs on a mosquito's leg from 10 miles. That is the accuracy, this is the precision that is going on behind the scenes, behind our back. They know almost your complete DNA profile. Well, they soon will. And I haven't digressed too far away from the Quigley thing, tragedy and hope, because the tragedy is we have no hope. We have, in the words of my granny, been cooked in the squat. We have been duped. We are duped when we think we have a choice. We are duped when we think that we can Brexit or not by the vote of the common people. We were duped by the Magna Carta with civil rights. What are those? Only for the king, self-protectionist bastards that they are. The rest of us are going to be up for slaughter because we're just cattle on the farm. Let us not have any delusional grandeur about that one. Sooner or later you'll have police knocking on your door. This is as sure as eggs are eggs. Your child, you haven't had it vaccinated. We're coming to take your child because you're a bad parent. We are under the illusion that our children belong to us. They don't. They've been sold into servitude by their parents because we gave them away. We signed our rights away. We signed our children away to the government, the Vatican. We truly did. Nothing to do with religion. By registering their birth, they became an entity. Not your entity. They become an asset. A tax-paying unit. And how very dare you not protect our assets? Because that child, the birth certificate of that child, will follow it through its life. That little tax-paying unit. And how much will the average human being, assuming they get to 70 years and 10 minimum, will make the banksters millions upon millions of pounds? And how very dare you not protect our assets by inoculating it? What if it dies? It could cost us a fortune. They're not interested in the health of our children, folks. They're interested in the protection of their wealth. Don't ever think governments are that altruistic that they give a shit about you or me or our children. Or your country. Because, hey, socialism has no borders. And nor does communism. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So when you see all this crap in America about the Democrats and the Republicans and yada, build our wall, really? And the false criticism against North Korea and Russia and the sabre rattling. Remember this. Once no one's watching and the doors are closed, at such meetings like the Bilderberg Group, Council of Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, International Affairs, yada, 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 who is paying the money? Who is making the money? And who benefits? Do you? No. Do I? Absolutely not. We are serfs, yet we suffer such delusional grandeur, don't we? You will come into this world with nothing, and you will go out of this world with nothing. And the bit in between, we make such a fuss about and get bent out of shape and think we have a choice. But until we can see this kitten, either with wide chops or narrow chops, we're always going to be whistling in the dark and thinking we know by the vote. The only time you know when you have 4 seeds in your hand what type of seed they are is when you chuck them in the ground and water them and wait for them to bloom and produce fruit, and by their fruit you shall know them. Lime, orange, etc. Apple, pear. And we have to wake up and smell the coffee. That's why I don't vote. I only encourages them. What's the point of voting when no matter who you vote for, the same people get in? Just a different name on the door, but the agenda is the same. In the British Houses of Parliament Cabinet Office, we are run by communists. And they are pursuing the National Socialism agenda. And they will report back to Nazi bunker headquarters in Brussels. Hitler didn't lose the bloody war. Germany didn't lose the war. Nazism won the war. We're just too dumb to realise it. We are all men with remotes, thinking we've done wonders by voting against the government or having a go at the council for the security camera, thinking we're it. Whether we Brexit or not doesn't matter a shit. It's nothing. Because if we Brexit, it'll be a short-term victory. Because these people don't give up. It's a pernicious cancer throughout the world. And it's gathering momentum. And it is so easy. Because the average people in the street are not interested. They don't want to listen. They're not listening still. So they'll be of the same opinion. Lambs to the slaughter. It should be a breeze, and this is why our children are dumber than ever. The American children, adults, are being dumbed down to perfection. They don't know what day of the bloody week it is. They really don't know. And it's the same in Europe. Countries have been destroyed by stealth, by problem reaction solution. Inch by inch, our countries are being bastardized and the people have been homogenized, and we've lost our national identity as sure as eggs are eggs. And we, ha 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 ha, look what happens in Paris, ha 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 ha, look what's happening in Germany. In Britain, let us not laugh too quickly. Because those who laugh first will end up laughing last. And it's all National Socialism. And don't think for 1 minute whether these wonderful politicians who are against Brexit or for Brexit don't close the door and drink from the same cup, sing from the same hymn sheet. It's all a farce. And that's the tragedy. The tragedy is there's no hope. This is why I don't think there's any future in this world. Because wars will continue. Children will be sacrificed. The old men will still want their blood. They will still want their wars. They will get bigger. And they won't stop until, like in the words of Rothschild, when is enough enough? When I've got that little bit more. They want the world. And then when they've got the world, they're not going to be happy. Because they're going to want the universe. Think about that. But at least you've learnt, I hope I haven't depressed you too much, how to sex a kitten. You'll be the talk of the town, especially if you speak at work about it. Very few people can sex kittens without them being at an obvious age. Could get a job on the side, make some extra bunts. But don't forget to pay your taxes. Catch you tomorrow.